Welcome again to Orthodoxy Live, an ongoing mission that is a collaboration between the Departments of Christian Education and of Internet Ministries for the Eastern American Diocese of the Serbian Orthodox Church, with the blessing of His Grace Bishop Irenei. Our goal each week is to bring interesting speakers and guests to share a little bit about the Orthodox faith with the world. And today our guest speaker is Father Sasa Nedic, who will be speaking on the topic, "Why, O Lord, do you stand far off?"
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to men. We praise Thee, we bless Thee, we worship Thee, we glorify Thee, we give thanks to Thee.
And now I'd like to welcome Father Sasha live from Carmichael's, Pennsylvania. Good evening,
Hello.
Father.
Hello, Father. Good to see you.
Welcome to Orthodoxy Live. It is a joy to have you here with us tonight. Father Sasha attended Three Hierarchs Seminary at Monastery Kirka before receiving his Bachelor's of Theology from St. Sava School of Theology in Libertyville, Illinois. During his educational formation, he was secretary to the Bishop of Salonia, a teacher of theology at Nada Berich Grammar School, and volunteered his time to the St. Sava School Library as a librarian. Since then, he has served the parishes of Saints Peter and Paul in South Bend, Illinois, Holy Ascension in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and now Father Sasha is at the parish of St. George in Carmichael's, Pennsylvania. Personally, I was blessed to spend a week at Shadland Camp with Father Sasha. See, the children of Shadland love it so much because they get to meet new friends from all over, but I can tell you it is the same for us priests. We don't always have a lot of time to spend together. We are often very busy. But camp is an opportunity to get to know the kids and one another. And during that time, I found Father to be a very engaging, down-to-earth person who was wonderful with the children, and someone I think I'd love to hear a lecture from. And also, Father, someone I'd like to spend another week at camp with, God willing, in the 2021 camping season. But before he begins, I would like to remind all of you out there that the goal of Orthodoxy Live is not only to present topics live to all of you, but it's to offer a forum for interaction and engagement. So be sure to post your questions in the comments. I'll be monitoring our live feed throughout the talk. And if your question is on topic and appropriate, we will present it to Father to answer. And one final note to those joining us live, I would please ask that we refrain from answering each other's questions in the live feed. People might get nervous to ask or shy, and we'd really like to give our guest lecturer a chance to respond. So that being said, Father Sasha, I am turning it over to you.
Thank you, my Father. Thank you for the beautiful words. And I did enjoy, like you, our week at Shayland, and hopefully we will meet again next year. All right, let us start. Why, O Lord, do you stand far off? Today, with everything that is going around, we probably feel like struggling David, who cried out those words that just read. It is no wonder, because wherever we look today, it's hard not to see injustice, pain, illness, stress, fear, and violence of all sorts. And when we see that, even as Orthodox Christians, believers, we tend to ask, where is God of extraordinary beauty in all this misery that we as a world are experiencing today? For that question, to find an answer, let us go back in time a little bit. Let us go into a time machine and let us be between Pascha and Pentecost. There we might find some interesting people who can give us answer to this question. We might look up the paralytic, and he will tell us, for him, God was at the pool. If we walk a little bit further, we might find Samaritan woman, and she would tell us, for her, God was at the Jacob's well, waiting for her there. And the blind man, if we meet him, he would tell us that Christ actually come up to him while he was waiting by the roadside. So if we are looking to these three holy people, they would tell us that actually God is everywhere. And if we don't see him in our life and we are fearful for that, actually our sinful nature and fear is a reason why God is invisible here. Fear is blinding. Fear is very crippling force that makes us outcasts of this actually wonderful world that God gave us to be our garden. So why don't we see him? We ask. Let us listen to the holy fathers of our church. So often they refer to him as one who is being not absent, but one who is hiding. He comes out of hiding and reveals himself to people who are able and willing to see. There has to be a collaboration between God and man. Before an appearance, there should be an encounter between God's movements towards our soul and purity of our vision. Some kind of holy game of tag between us and God needs to be at play. And only then, when this happens, we might see him hiding in different corners of our lives. So, wherever we are frightened, overwhelmed with anxiety, let us look at those three holy examples and let us look what a encounter with God brought to their lives. What kind of changes? If we visit paralytic, paralytic got rid of his negative worldview. He got rid of his anger and envy and fear on that very day when he met God at the pool. And let us not forget, he was there for 30 years. And finally, after meeting, now he could see different tomorrow and not the same old one. Samaritan woman finally stopped and looked honestly at herself for the very first time. And she did repent. And by doing that, she ceased being fearful of her shameful former life and being afraid of being outcast. The blind man, through washing of his eyes, was able to see loving and merciful God finally, and was able for the very first time to look around to see the beautiful world. And what's even more important, he was able to look into his future for the first time without fear. Today, I want to relate to you that any kind of fear is not good. Actually, there is one, fear of God. And I think all of us should possess a little bit of that. We are surrounded with this terrible enemy, this fear. But the church always gives us beautiful examples of faith that can guide us. And I just pointed to you three of them. Church experience tells us one thing: God manifests himself to us in secret and in mysterious ways. So often, his gift is not revealed in our good health or long life, but rather in an answer to the question we have regarding our salvation and our immortality. He always brings something that is not earthly when we are in pain, when we are afraid, when we are tired of this sometimes miserable life. We are all like Christ on the cross, feeling abandoned. And at that moment, we all want to look up at the sky and cry out, Ili, Ili, lama sabachthani. But right there, God's presence is absolute and perfect. So if we ask ourselves again, where is God when all this evil is happening? Let us listen to one of the most famous psychologist, Jung, who told us, we don't see God because we don't look low enough. I was able to read a little bit more during this past 2 months because being always at home. and I felt being under siege. And one of the books that I picked up was a book about Jerusalem, year 1099, month July. Muslims, Jews, Christians were besieged by invading crusaders, and they were afraid for their present and they were afraid about their future. So, in a way, like us today, wherever we are, and we are like that Jerusalem. So, I would like to share with you a chapter out of that book. It says, setting is people are waiting for walls to be breached, and they all got together around one wise man who was a Copt, and he spent an evening with them, trying to encourage them, giving them wisdom. So I will share a little bit with you. What I'm about to say to you may be of no use on the eve of invasion. Nevertheless, take note of my words so that one day everyone may know how we lived in Jerusalem. After thinking a little, the Copt went on. No one can go back, but everyone can go forward. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, all you have to say to yourself is this: I'm going to think of this day as the first day of my life. I will look on the members of my family with surprise and amazement, glad to discover that they are by my side, silently sharing that much talked about but little understood thing called love. I will ask to join the first camel train that appears on the horizon without asking where it is going, and I will leave it as soon as something more interesting catches my eyes. I will pass a beggar who will ask me for money. I might give it to him, or I might walk past him thinking that he will only spend it on drink. As I do, I will hear his insults and understand that it is simply his way of communicating with me. I will pass someone trying to destroy a bridge. I might try to stop him, or I might realize that he is doing it because he has no one waiting for him on the other side. This is his way of trying to fend off his own loneliness. I will look at everything and everyone as if for the first time, especially the small things that I have grown used to, quite forgetting the magic surrounding them. The desert sands, for example, which are moved by an energy I cannot understand because I cannot see the wind. Instead of noting down things I am unlikely to forget on the piece of parchment I always carry with me, I will write a poem, even if I have never written one before, and even if I never do so again. I will at least know that I once had the courage to put my feelings into words. When I reach a small village that I know well, I will enter it by a different route. I will be smiling, and the inhabitants will say to one another, "He must be mad, because war and destruction have left the soil barren." But I will keep smiling, because it pleases me to know that they think I'm mad. My smile is my way of saying, "You can destroy my body, but not my soul." Tonight, before leaving, I'm going to spend time sorting through the pile of things I never had the patience to put in order. And I will find that a little of my history is there. All the letters, the notes, the cuttings, and receipts will take on their own life and have strange stories to tell me about the past and about the future. All the different things in the world, all the roads traveled, all the entrances and exits of my life. I'm going to put on a shirt I often wear, and for the first time, I'm going to notice how it was made. I'm going to imagine the hands that wove the cotton and the river where the fibers of the plants were born. I will understand that all those now invisible things are part of the history of my shirt. And even the things I'm accustomed to, like the sandals which, after long use, have become an extension of my feet, will be clothed in the mystery of discovery. Since I'm heading off into the future, I will be helped by the scuff marks left on my sandals from when I stumbled in the past. May everything my hand touches and my eyes see and my mouth tastes be different, but the same. That way, all those things will cease to be still and instead will explain to me why they have been with me. They will reveal to me the miracle of re-encountering emotions worn smooth by routine. I will drink some tea that I have never tried because others told me it tastes horrible. I will walk down a street I have never walked down before because others told me it was totally without interest. And I will find out whether or not I would like to go back there. If it's sunny tomorrow, I want to look at the sun properly for the first time. If it's cloudy, I want to watch and see in which direction the clouds are going. I always think that I don't have time or that I don't pay enough attention. Tomorrow, though, I will concentrate on the direction taken by the clouds or on the sun's rays and the shadows they create. Above my head exists a sky above which all humanity, over thousands of years, have woven the stories of reasonable explanation. Well, I will forget everything I learned about the stars, and they will be transformed once more into angels or children or whatever I feel like believing at that moment. Time and life have given me plenty of logical explanations for everything, but my soul feeds on mysteries. I need mystery. I need to see the voice of an angry God in the rumble of thunder, even though many of you here might consider that heresy. I want to fill my life with fantasy again, because an angry God is far stranger, far more frightening, and far more interesting than a phenomenon explained by the sages of today. For the first time, I will smile without feeling guilty, because joy is not a sin. For the first time, I will avoid anything that makes me suffer, because suffering is not a virtue. I will not complain about life, saying everything's always the same, and I can do nothing to change it, because I am living this day as if it were my first, and while it lasts, I will discover things that I did not even know were there. Even though I have walked past the same places countless times before and said good morning to the same people, today's good morning will be different. It will not be a mere polite formula. It will be a form of blessing in the hope that everything I speak to will understand the importance of being alive, even when tragedy is threatening to engulf us. I will pay attention to the words of the songs the bird is singing in the street, even though others are not listening because their souls are heavy with fear. The music says, love rules, but no one knows where it has its throne. In order to know that place, you must first submit to love. And I will have the courage to open the door to the sanctuary that leads to my soul. May I look at myself as if this were the first time I had ever been in contact with my own body and my own soul. May I be capable of accepting myself as I am, a person who walks and feels and talks like anyone else, but who, despite his faults and failures, is also brave. May I be amazed by my simplest gestures, as though I were talking to a stranger, by my most ordinary emotions, as though I were feeling the sand touching my face when the wind blows in from Baghdad, by the most tender of moments, as when I watch my wife sleeping by my side and try to imagine what she is dreaming. And if I'm alone in bed, I will go over to the window, look up at the sky, and feel certain that loneliness is a lie because the universe is there to keep my company. And then I will have lived each hour of my day as if it were a constant surprise to me. To this I, who was not created by my father, or by my mother, or by school, but by everything I have experienced up until now, and which I suddenly forgot in order to discover it all anew. And even if this is to be my last day on earth, I will enjoy it to the fullness, because I will live it with the innocence of a child. And if I were doing think for the first time. I hope you like this chapter, and I hope you will take those wise words of the Copt into your hearts and get rid of the fear. And if you haven't, start living again with Christ in your midst. And let me finish with the words of Emily Dickinson. When Jesus tells us about his Father, we distrust him. When he shows us his home, we run away. But when he confides to us that he is acquainted with grief, we listen, for that is also an acquaintance of our own. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for sharing these few minutes with me. And I pray that you are in good health and spirit, and that God keeps you in that way.
Father, thank you very much. We did get a couple of questions texted to me here. I think sometimes people get shy on Facebook, so they reach out to me in other ways. And you certainly connected well with the feeling and the pulse of the moment in the kind of atmosphere of fear and anxiety that seems all pervasive right now. And the question that came in was, is there a way that we as Orthodox Christians might practically deal with this? Is there a prayer that we can use or something of that effect that will help us calm those fears and anxieties?
Good question. I will tell you what I do, and I always remember someone telling a story about a young musician who was tired of practicing, and her teacher told her that instead of practicing for like a long periods of time playing music, just set up 5 minutes every now and then during the day, and play the violin. And I take this advice with my prayer. I don't have, unfortunately, enough patience to pray for a long time, but whenever I do nothing, I talk to God. And God is the one who brings peace into your heart. And whatever you feel, just pour it out. We often tend to use other people's prayers that don't, reflect what we are feeling. So just open your heart and talk to him. And he will enter your heart like he entered heart of those three people that I just mentioned: the paralytic, the blind man, and poor Samaritan woman. So
next question should be a pretty easy one, and that is a couple of the people have mentioned how beautiful this reading was, and they were curious if you could share again the book that it was from, and maybe how you yourself got this book into your hands. What inspired you to pick it up and read it?
Okay, I don't know if the writer will object. So the writer is, I hope I pronounced his name right, Paulo Coelho. When I was his book Alchemist was very popular. So I'm not a big fan of all of his works, but this manuscript found in Accra, I found a few years back, and I was struck by the depth of wisdom. Not everything is Christian, and if you read it, don't be surprised, but most of it is. And it's an easy read, and touches your soul.
Well, I am a firm believer when one reads fiction and nonfiction that we can find the good things that we are looking for if we are looking for them in all types of different sources. So I will add that to my own reading list in the not too distant future once I finish up my current books. But I think, Father, that you might be off the hook. I think I don't see any more questions coming through. But thank you to those who did text me those couple of questions. It's certainly, like I said, you had your finger on the pulse of the moment with a lot of fear and anxiety with regard to the pandemic, with regard to civil unrest here in the United States. So thank you for these comforting words. And I think they will have been great benefit to all of those out there on our Facebook page who are watching, as it certainly was for me. So thank you again, Father Sasha, for taking the time to offer us this reflection. And thank you to everyone who joined us today and for all of your questions. One or two questions is perfect. Some very positive things are coming through, Father Sasha. You can check those later. But please be sure to follow our diocesan Facebook page so all of you can join us next week for a talk by Father Borjan Vitanov titled Practical Orthodoxy, live at 7 p.m. next Sunday. God willing, I hope to see all of you there.